Most men have no idea how a woman actually falls in love with them. You show up, you're kind, you try to do everything right, and she still drifts back to the man who gives her tension instead of peace. So your brain files love under random and humiliating. Underneath that chaos, there's a predictable pattern. Her feelings follow a curve shaped by time and by how, when, and how deeply she invests herself into you. In this video, I'm going to map that curve for you, step by step, so by the end, you have a frame you can't unsee, and you finally understand why some women attach, some fade, and some haunt you for years. This is PsycheLure. We don't scream at women or worship them. We take your obsession and confusion, open it like a lab sample, and show you the psychology underneath, so you can stop begging for love and start leading with quiet control. Section 1. The map. Desire is a curve, not a coin flip. Most guys treat attraction like a lottery ticket. You show up, talk a bit, and secretly hope chemistry just appears out of nowhere. In reality, when a woman meets you, her romantic interest starts almost at zero, and then slowly either climbs toward attachment or slides toward emotional flatline. And that movement is not random at all. Picture a simple graph in your mind. One axis is time she spends around you. The other is how much of herself she's investing into you. Attention, effort, emotion, risk. The story she tells herself about you. Every interaction nudges that line up or down, not just by the words you use, but by the frame you stand in. A man choosing calmly, or a boy auditioning for approval. Her nervous system is constantly scanning you for patterns, asking, is he stable or reactive? Is he grounded or needy? Is he a safe base or just another dopamine hit that will drain me later? Once you start seeing her feelings as the result of repeated small signals multiplied over time, you stop obsessing over single moments and you start thinking like a strategist shaping the whole curve. In this video, everything we talk about, compliance, how much she thinks about you, and the role of time, will sit on this map. So as you listen, keep one quiet question in the back of your mind. Is this pulling the line upward or quietly killing it? Section 2. Time and your instant obsession. Why you overheat before she even starts. A woman's feelings usually grow like something slow cooked, while yours often behave like an energy drink slammed on an empty stomach. One witty exchange, one soft look, one late-night chat, and your mind is already running a whole movie. The relationship, the future, the fantasy where she finally proves you're worth choosing. That speed isn't romance, it's anxiety. A part of you is terrified of being replaceable, so the moment your nervous system senses hope, it clings to her like a life raft. Her system doesn't work like that. She needs repetition, consistency, and time to watch how you handle boredom, uncertainty, and small conflicts before her body relaxes into trust. When you rush ahead of that timeline, constant texting, forcing deep talks, demanding clarity on what this is, you're not speeding up love, you're exposing how shaky you are without her reassurance. Time, for her, is a filter. It shows whether your behavior is a performance or your baseline, whether your confidence survives when she doesn't feed it for a day or two. Your job at the start is not to squeeze a declaration of interest out of her. It's to move slowly enough that your real rhythm shows, so she can feel safe letting her interest rise at its natural pace. When you stop treating the first few interactions like an exam you have to pass, and more like the first pages of a long book, your energy shifts from "please pick me" to "let's see if we actually fit." And women feel that difference immediately. Section 3. It's not niceness, it's investment. You've been told your whole life that if you're kind enough, patient enough, generous enough, she'll eventually see your worth. And yet, the women you want most often feel the least pulled toward you. At a basic psychological level, people don't fall in love with what they receive for free. They bond with whatever they've spent energy, time, and emotional risk building, the way you're strangely attached to a project you struggled through more than the one that came easily. When a woman keeps circling back to a man who is unstable or confusing, it's often because she's poured countless hours of worry, arguments, fantasies, and self-justifications into that connection, and her ego is now fused with the story of making it work. Meanwhile, you stand on the side, over-giving without asking for anything that costs her, and your presence becomes emotionally cheap. Safe, yes, but costless, like a free app on her phone she never opens. The human brain has a bias called consistency. Once we invest heavily, we want to feel we chose wisely, so we keep doubling down to avoid admitting we were wrong. And that bias pulls her toward the man she has already suffered and stretched herself for. This doesn't mean you should become chaotic or cruel. It means your role is to stop trying to win her with volume of effort and start becoming someone she has to lean in for, even a little, with her time, her attention, her vulnerability, her choices. A woman doesn't fall in love because you erase all friction from her path. She falls in love when, over time, she finds herself rearranging her schedule, her habits, even her self-image to include you, and feeling that those inner movements were worth it. And the cleanest way to invite that kind of investment is not by begging or explaining, but by steadily leading her into small, escalating moments where she chooses to step into your world and say yes with her actions. Section 4. The compliance ladder. 3 levels of yes. So, how do you actually invite that kind of investment without turning into a cartoon villain or a people pleaser? Think of a simple ladder of yes, 3 levels of participation, where each small agreement her body and behavior gives you quietly tells her nervous system, I follow his lead, I step into his frame. On the first level, you use soft requests, low-pressure asks like, help me choose this, hold this for a second, walk with me while we talk. Tiny favors that cost her a little bit of attention or effort, but still feel comfortable and safe. This level is perfect if you're shy, if she's highly independent, or if the dynamic is new, because you're training both of your systems to experience something important. You initiate, she responds, and nothing bad happens. The second level is firm direction. Instead of asking, you calmly decide, let's sit over there. We'll meet at 6, I'll message you the spot. Come stand here, the view is better. Delivered without edge, as if leadership is simply natural for you. Here, you're not barking orders, you're offering structure. And as long as she feels some attraction and basic safety with you, most women relax deeper when they can lean into a man who's internally decided on a direction. If she resists strongly or goes stiff, that's data and you dial it back. The third level is assumed movement. You start walking and she falls into step. You gently guide her a few steps to a quieter corner with a light touch on her shoulder or back. You hold out your hand and simply pause to see if she takes it. This is where physical closeness, eye contact, and eventual intimacy live, and it only feels natural when the earlier rungs of the ladder are solid. If you jump straight here from 0, your move feels sudden and her body throws up alarms, not because you're evil, but because you skipped the slow build her system needs. Real leadership is not about forcing compliance. It's about offering a direction her body feels free to join, and being sensitive enough to notice when her no or hesitation means you slow down instead of pushing harder. Once she's used to saying yes with her schedule, her movements, and her body language, the next thing that starts following you is her mind. And that's where the deeper kind of investment begins to form. Section 5. Living in her head. Mental rumination as deep investment. The strongest form of attachment isn't what happens when you're in front of her. It's what keeps happening in her mind when you're not there. Rumination is simply this: the amount of her mental screen time you occupy. The thoughts, scenarios, questions, and tiny emotional spikes that show up while she's trying to work, scroll, or fall asleep. In a world where apps are fighting for her attention every second, the man who quietly wins is not always the most impressive in person. It's the one whose presence leaves little unresolved threads in her mind she keeps wanting to tug on. You create that ethically by giving her small roles in your world, asking her to help you choose something, to give an honest opinion, to bring something next time, to research a place you might go. Simple tasks that require her to remember you, think about you, and make micro decisions with you in mind. You also create it by not dumping your entire life story in the first week. When you answer everything immediately and overshare every detail, there is nothing left to wonder about. No empty space where her curiosity can breathe. Instead, you let certain questions hang in the air, not as manipulation, but as truth. You reveal enough that she feels safe, but you keep some edges unexplained, so her mind naturally circles back later with, "What did he mean by that? Who is he really when no one's watching?" There is a darker path too. Anger, jealousy, and hurt are incredibly sticky in the brain, which is why some women stay mentally locked on men who have wounded them, replaying arguments and imaginary comebacks like a looped movie. You don't need to become that kind of trigger. If you're healing from anxious patterns, your job is to stop volunteering as the one who gets hurt. And if you're tempted to play villain just to be unforgettable, remember that any bond built on trauma will eventually demand a price from you as well. The sweet spot is this: you show up as a stable, grounded presence. You invite her to participate in your world in small, ongoing ways, and you leave just enough mystery and distance that her thoughts keep drifting back to you like a tab that never quite closes. Once her mind starts doing that on its own, every hour of silence stops feeling like a rejection to you and starts working in your favor. Because you understand that mental investment is building even when no messages are being sent. Section 6. Time as gravity. How long-term presence changes the game. Up to this point, we've talked about moments. The yes on the compliance ladder. The thoughts she has when you disappear from the chat window. Now we need to zoom out to something slower and heavier. Time. Time by itself doesn't make her fall in love. She can spend months around co-workers or classmates and feel nothing romantic, because she hasn't invested anything of her deeper self into them. But once she has started saying yes with her actions, with her thoughts, with small risks and emotional exposures, continued time with you acts like gravity. It turns those scattered pieces into a stable orbit that's hard to simply walk away from. Your shared routines, inside jokes, the way she knows how you take your coffee or what calms you down after a bad day. Each of those is a tiny thread, and long-term time is what braids them into something that feels like a rope. The mistake many men make is trying to use time alone as proof. We've known each other for years, she should love me by now, while ignoring the fact that she never had to stretch, choose, or change anything for them. So the years pass without any real emotional weight. When you understand time as a multiplier instead of a magic ingredient, you stop counting months and start asking better questions. What has she actually invested in me during this time? Who has she slowly become when she's around me? And you also turn that question inward. Because if you've been orbiting someone for a long time, without building anything in your own life that you're proud of, the gravity you feel might not be love. It might just be habit and fear of starting over. Real, long-term bonding is when both of you have poured something real into the connection over time. And staying together feels like honoring that shared creation, not just avoiding loneliness.
Section 7. What it really means to lead a woman. At this point, you can probably feel a pattern. When she invests in you with her actions, her thoughts, and her time, her feelings follow. When you overinvest for her, yours do. Leadership in this context isn't dominance theatre. It's simply being the one who sets the rhythm of the connection instead of waiting anxiously to be chosen. You lead when you decide the pace instead of chasing, when you invite her into decisions instead of endlessly adapting, when you can tolerate her uncertainty without collapsing into panic texts and emotional speeches. A man who leads doesn't need to control every outcome. He's anchored in his own life, his values, his direction, and he treats her interest as data, not oxygen. If she invests, he meets it. If she doesn't, he doesn't beg. For a woman with a more anxious nervous system, that groundedness feels like a safe harbor. For a woman who is avoidant, it quietly exposes the distance she hides behind, and she has to decide whether to step closer or drift away. In both cases, you win, because you're no longer organizing your sense of worth around whether one specific person finally validates you. Instead of thinking, how do I make her love me? The better question becomes, how do I build a life, a frame, a presence that a healthy woman would naturally want to invest in over time? When you live from that question, the techniques in this video stop being tricks to get a girl and start becoming expressions of a deeper truth. You are the one who chooses how you move, who you allow to invest, and when you let go. Section 8. Quiet power. A woman doesn't fall in love because you sacrifice yourself at her feet. She falls in love, if she ever does, because over time she has slowly woven you into her choices, her habits, and the story she tells herself about her life. Your power is not in forcing that story, but in understanding the structure behind it: investment, mental presence, and time. So you stop playing the role of the desperate extra and start living as the main character in your own narrative. If this gave language to something you've been feeling but couldn't explain, you can support the work by hitting like so it reaches more men who are stuck in the same loops you've been dragging yourself through. And if you want more of these deep dives into how attraction, obsession, and power actually work beneath the surface, you can subscribe to PsycheLure so you don't have to piece this together alone. Remember this the next time you're tempted to chase. Love is not a prize she hands you for performance. It's a pattern that emerges when two people invest in a way that their nervous systems can trust. Walk away from what keeps you begging. Walk toward what lets you lead calmly. And watch how different your connections look when you finally understand how women actually fall in love.